Welcome to another edition of DT Live. Hope everybody's doing well. Again, a bit of an impromptu stream. Typical of me. I never plan anything ahead of time. Only gave you guys about a 15-minute heads up. I just decided about 15 minutes ago that I would do something this evening, so just got home. Didn't do too much today. Had to work for a little bit today and spent a little bit of my afternoon at the gym. Got a little bit of a workout in. Just got home from the gym, actually. Today was leg day. Did a little legs. Also did a little cardio. And to reward myself, Dos Equis. Haven't had one in a while. Dos Equis. Good stuff. I forgot how good this is. You guys know I often drink Corona Especial. But the Dos Equis is not bad. Refreshing. Very hot day today, too. Of course, this time of year, it's often, 100 degrees outside. It's high 90s today. Didn't get much of a storm. So those of you guys that were asking about the hurricane, rain for a couple of days. It wasn't nearly as bad as what people were making it out to be. No major flooding, which the area I live in is kind of prone to flooding. So if it would have been a torrential downpour, we would have had some problems, but it really wasn't too bad. So some of you guys already in the chat. Let me catch up here. Yeah, phosphorus. What's ligma? I have no idea. I guess that's the first question of the day. Can't answer that one. I have no idea what you're asking about there. Beep Beep says cat. Tuxie says hi, DT. How you doing, Tuxie? Drew says hey. Tony, hi. Bob, how you doing? Mr. GFY, how you doing, sir? And we got Costia and Caesar. Ben Fitzpatrick. Mr. Gentoo himself. Yeah, we've got Loop in the chat, Loop Esther. Hope you're doing well. Pale Player. And quite a few of you showed up for this, again, kind of impromptu live stream. I just wanted to do something this evening. Got a little time. Don't know how long I'll stream tonight. I do kind of need to get to bed early. I have to get up very early tomorrow morning for work. But I'll probably stream at least an hour, so really have no idea what I want to do this evening. I did decide I wanted to go ahead and move away from the Awesome Window Manager, which is what I'm using right now. I've been using Awesome for a while now because, quite frankly, it's comfortable and it just kind of works. And I've settled into Awesome. Like, I could live happily ever after with the Awesome Window Manager. But I'm thinking about going ahead and moving to BSPWM very shortly. I've already installed BSPWM. It's just the default configs, though I haven't configured it in any way. I'll probably start living in BSPWM tomorrow. It's the plan. Just go ahead and switch over to it and then start living in it, figure out what it's all about, figure out how to config it. The only thing I've done is got the default configs for BSPWM and the default config for SXHKD. What is that? The Simple X Hotkey Daemon. Just default configs. I haven't configured them in any way. Got Polybar kind of set up, but it doesn't seem to be working quite right with BSPWM. I don't really know how BSPWM works as far as, like, I have a 3-monitor system, and Polybar shows the same desktop on all 3 monitors as far as the one that's highlighted. I don't know if BSPWM is kind of weird like i3. i3 is kind of weird in that it doesn't like show you all the desktop. It only shows you like the one on it. One of the things that kind of annoys me about i3. But part of it is just you get comfortable in something. I've gotten comfortable with things like DWM and Awesome, which they're very similar. I've gotten very comfortable with Qtile and Xmonad, which are very similar to each other. Oh, i3 is a little bit of a different animal, so is Herbstluft. And I think BSPWM is also going to be a bit of a different tiling window manager than what I typically live in. All right, Big Pod, how you doing, sir? Hope you're doing well. Let's see. Yeah, we got Arch I386. He says hi. Guillermo says hi. And Scott says Ligma balls. No, Scott. We're going to get demonetized, I think, if we keep on with that. Let's see. Using Arco Linux, I am on Arco Linux. I installed Arco Linux B originally with the awesome window manager. It's what this started life as. Now I have about 7 different window managers on it other than awesome. I have i3 and DWM and Qtile and Xmonad, BSPWM, which I just installed. A couple of more. You know, all the tiling window managers I've covered on the channel that I've got my config files for, they're on this machine. Let's see. Yeah, you need to show the case and try Fedora Silverblue. You need to showcase Fedora Silverblue. I should. People have been asking about that for a little bit. I switched to Arco Linux B last night and is very pleased, says Mr. GFY. Yeah. Did that guy ever get his $500 in Bitcoin from me? So the scammer. I've still got the email. I should pull it up. I didn't realize it actually, but that when I showed you guys the email, you guys didn't actually get to see the whole email. Let's see if I can pull up. Well, I won't bother pulling up my email. I'm not sure what's in it, but the picture, the screenshot I took, cut off the last 2 lines because after the part where he asked for $500 Bitcoin, he also said, "Don't bother reporting me because I'm anonymous and my Bitcoin account can't be traced, so it's pointless to even report that I'm trying to basically extort you for this money." And then the very next line after that says, "If you tell anybody about this, I'm going to find out and I'm going to release the video anyway." So, just everything about that email, that scam email, is just so retarded. Because, I mean, he says one thing and then contradicts himself in the very next sentence. But you know what? He probably makes a little bit of money doing that. I'm sure he catches some folks off guard, probably the elderly, people that don't really know how computers work. And of course, he's talking about watching me on my webcam and all this. I don't even have a webcam. Of course, I've got my my Panasonic Lumix camera, but it's not on the tripod and up and without the lens cap on it or anything all the time. It's only like that when I record. So yeah, I heard of him. What's it called? Crystal OS, the Intel Linux distro. Oh, Clear OS. Probably what you're asking about, Mr. GFY. I'm not really interested. Whatever Intel is putting out there for a Linux distro, I might check it out, but I don't know. Not really something I'm interested in. Yeah, LOL scam emails. Yeah, they're fun though. I thought it was hilarious when I read it. That's why I shared it with you guys. Voice cracks. LOL. What razor do you use? I use Gillette Fusion. When you shave your head, you really can't use like a single blade, one of the cheap razors. It needs to be something with 4 or 5 blades. It has to be. So Gillette Fusion or the Schick Quattro. If you use something like a cheap single blade Bic that you could use maybe to shave your face, you're just going to tear your head up. It's going to be bad. Plus you're not going to get but maybe that one shave out of a single blade. Or a 4 blade, I can use it, I don't know, half a dozen times before it gets dull to the point where I need to change the blade. Yeah, Luke Minix. Or Luke Minax. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce your username, but he asks, "I'd love to know what you think of Emacs and see you trying it out if you haven't yet, especially its window manager EXWM." Well, trying out Emacs, you don't see too many people on YouTube do anything with Emacs, and there's a reason for that. Emacs is, you basically have to write your own configuration for Emacs, in eLisp or whatever. So one person's Emacs is not going to be the next person's Emacs. You know, it's a little bit different than something like Vim, where Vim is pretty much the same for everybody who uses it. Yes, we all have our own config files and customize it a little bit, but it's all basically the same. Emacs is not like that. Like I could show you, like I guess I could learn a little bit about Emacs and show you some things, but I don't know. For one thing, I would have to learn Emacs. I'm not an Emacs user, never have been. So it would take some time for me to dive into that subject. And Mr. GFY, for sure, I'm a poor dude, so I run only stock that ships with PC. No worries. Okay. And Charlie Thomas, tails or cubes? Sorry, played out question. As far as which is a better distro, I have been using Tails for a long time. I always keep the latest version of Tails on a USB key. I really like it. It comes in handy as far as just keeping something on a live USB key that you can use in any machine. Cubes is interesting in concept. I've never actually installed Cubes, but the concept behind it is very interesting. I'm not sure how practical it is. That everything is kind of, you know, containerized in its own little hypervisor. I'm not sure, like, I don't know how it would be trying to make Cubes your daily desktop driver. I think it would cause some problems. I think you would get frustrated. Just a guess, though. Again, I haven't actually installed it and tried to live in it. Yeah, Paul says, I'm interested to try Void Linux, but I'm concerned about potential issues coming from a non-glibc distro causing build issues. Any thoughts? You can install Void Linux with glibc, though. You can install it without it as well. But it's not like you can't use glibc. Unless something has changed in the last few months. Haven't tried Void lately. So, yeah, Harry's razors are great, says Bob Grimes. Yeah, the spectacular Donut James would make great use of them. Okay, that's interesting. All right. Hello from Prague. Do you have a question? To my answer, I do not. Telcerus, use a letter opener to shave your head. That might work, I don't know. A single blade on your scalp hurts to think about it. Yeah, single blades are no good for shaving your head. You just don't even try it. Emacs is useless when you have a tiling window manager, says Scott. I don't know. But Emacs really is like its own desktop environment. So, and that's part of the problem I would have with Emacs is, you know, I would treat Emacs mainly as a text editor, but I already have a good text editor, right? I use Vim, so why switch to Emacs? And people tell me, well, you can check your email, and it has a Git client, and you can play Tetris in Emacs, and all this other stuff. You know, it's got its own shell, it's got its own tiling window manager, but I don't need all of that stuff. Not in a text editor, right? I just want the text editor. Yeah. Yeah, Mr. GFY. Yeah, everybody should give a thumbs up. Appreciate that, Mr. GFY. Yeah, Emacs is great. You could use Spacemacs. Yeah, that's the one everybody tells me to jump into. Spacemacs, I guess it's a little bit more friendly to those of us coming from Vim to Emacs. And yeah, I've been on Emacs for a couple weeks now. That's Luke again. Yeah, coming from Vim, I still think Vim is the best editor by far. But the environment Emacs provides kind of aids my Vim addiction in a way. Okay. Let's see. UEFI is bloat. Oh, I'm surprised it took this long before we got some bloat talk. UEFI is bloat. I could agree with that. There's a lot of things that are bloat, though. I mean, as soon as we bring up bloat, I know somebody's going to bring up systemd, so I'll go ahead and throw that out there. Just so we don't have to mention it again. And of course, GNOME. Or, you know, according to Luke Smith, the bash shell is bloat. Of course, according to me, hair is bloat. ADT, any plans to do a window maker, window manager trial? I might at some point. At some point. It's not something I've ruled out. So yeah, it's a possibility. Not sure when. I eventually got to get around to doing some floating window managers after doing all these tiling window managers. So yeah, we might do window maker. Might do, there's a couple that I didn't get around to the first time through the obscure window manager project. There's a few things that didn't make the initial 12 window managers I looked at that I want to go back and take a look at. Yeah, Vay says, wow, caught you live. Yeah, you got lucky on that, Vay, because this was not scheduled, so I rarely do scheduled live streams. Almost never. Like 90% of the live streams I do typically are not scheduled. I rarely give you guys more than about 30 minutes heads up. You know, it's usually I just decide to do a live stream. I'll send out a notification 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes ahead of time and just do the stream. The only ones you guys typically get a heads up on is once a month I do my patrons only live stream where patrons of the channel can join me in a Zoom video chat conference. And I, give those guys, of course, at least a couple of days heads up on that so all the patrons can be there. But other than that, I really don't do schedules, not for live streaming. Yeah, computers are bloat. Well, these days, a lot of people probably would agree with that because computers nowadays typically are your Android and iOS devices. It's becoming more and more common. Phosphorus, what's your top 5 POSIX shell scripting moments? There's so many. How could I narrow it down to just 5? I expected some nerdy questions, but you guys. And then, of course, we've got Bronislav here. Fish or bash? I love fish. I love bash. Oddly enough, I'm not using either one at the moment. I've been in ZSH for a while. I switched over to ZSH, I don't know, 4 months ago, 5 months ago. For no real reason. I just installed, was it Manjaro or Arco at the time? I can't remember which one I was on. ZSH was the default on that particular distro, whichever version of one of those I installed. So I just stuck with ZSH for a while. I'm not sure that any of them provide any real advantages over the other as far as there's nothing that's a game changer. I've used bash, of course, forever. Bash is the default shell on most Linux distros. The few that don't use bash by default almost always use ZSH, so I've used ZSH quite a bit. Fish, I've played around with Fish a little bit. I've played around with Conch, which is XONSH. That's the one that's basically Python, but a shell. It's kind of interesting. It's beta software though, but it's a neat little project too. See, I love how the hacker disabled the antivirus. May he help me? I can never disable that annoying antivirus. Yeah, so the scammer email, that was hilarious. He hacked my non-existent webcam. I don't have a webcam. Then he disabled my antivirus, on my Linux machine because I run antivirus on it. And how did he get through the antivirus? Well, he got through the driver. That's how he described it. He hacked the driver to install a Trojan virus. And his Trojan virus was, remotely operating my camera and microphone. Like, you really, if you're gonna, I'm not throwing shade on these scammers. Everybody's got to make a living, right? Doing something. But you might want to have people proofread what you write before you send it out to, millions of email addresses, or however many email addresses he was spamming with this stuff. Have somebody that knows a little bit about computers proofread it. Yeah, hair is bloat. Yeah, I agree, Scott. Uh, I've been without hair since 2003, I think, was when I started shaving my head. Mainly just because I was cheap and didn't want to pay for a haircut. And I've just stuck with it ever since. Yeah, DT, what kind of hardware are you running your system on? So I have a 16-core Threadripper. The 16-core, 32 Threadripper, whatever model that is. Radeon 7 graphics card, 32 gigs of memory. Have a 1 terabyte NVMe drive in this machine, as well as half a dozen 250 gig SSDs and an IC dock for doing whatever, distro hopping or extra storage, whatever I need them for. That's the basic specs of the machine. And Mr. GFY. Or actually, Cletus to Mr. GFY. Cletus is saying he's all about Nano. Nano is not bad. Every time somebody mentions Vim or Emacs, there's always like this flame war that gets started. You know, which one's better, Vim or Emacs? And then, like a whole slew of people that use Nano have to join in the conversation to remind us about Nano. But Nano is perfectly usable. It's okay. I did a video a while back on syntax highlighting with Nano, which is something I actually did not know Nano did. But you can do syntax highlighting with Nano. I'm sure Nano does a ton of stuff. You can probably extend it in some pretty major ways if you want to take the time to do it. It's just not something I've ever looked into. Yeah, VI or Vim? Well, that's a ridiculous question. I mean, Vim is VI improved. So I want the improved one. Standard VI is not that great. Yeah, Telcerus, he still likes MX. Huh. Alright. See how many of you guys are hanging out in the DistroTube IRC channel over on the Freenode network today. I got a few people hanging out there. For those of you, interested in hanging out with nerds 24/7 365, the DistroTube IRC channel. There's always, 50, 60 people hanging out there all the time. Pretty good discussions there. Discussions about Linux, life, the meaning of the universe. Always good topics there. And friendly people. Let's see. I missed some of the chat. Yeah, Big Pod, of course, uses Visual Studio Code, which is way better than Emacs Nano and Vim. Yeah. We'll have to agree to disagree on that one, Big Pod. I'm sure VS Code is great, if you don't mind. Microsoft. Yeah, DT, what's your favorite Linux kernel epic git commit top 5 moments? Again, you guys are asking things. How could I limit that to just a top 5? What's the difference between NeoVim and Vim? NeoVim is new Vim. Vim is the real Vim. It's beyond that, they're basically the same text editor. Like if you've been using Vim and you installed NeoVim, you really wouldn't see any real difference. It uses the same config and functions the same way. The big thing is trying to clean up the code a little bit, get rid of some legacy code, get rid of some of the bloat. That is the goal behind the folks that are behind NeoVim. Seems to be more of a group effort, more of a community project, too, where Vim proper is really one man. And apparently he doesn't take suggestions and criticism very well, so it's basically his baby. He does what he wants with Vim, which is perfectly okay. It's his right to do that. So some folks, want to go off and we'll just fork it, create something new, call it NeoVim. Yeah, Ben Fitzpatrick says, I'm sorry, I'm tired of the terminal. Okay, well, yeah, all those Gentoo installs, Ben. You got to get away from Gentoo. Get back in the GUI. Install something a little more normal. Ben, you really should give something like Fedora or SUSE a try. I know you love things like Gentoo and Slackware, but yeah, what would be the easiest way to fix the mirror list in Vim during an Arch install? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the rest of the question. The chat skipped ahead before I finished what you were asking. I think that was Peter. Sorry, Peter. But what's the easiest way to fix the mirror list in Vim in Arch? So you're doing the Arch install, and the mirror list is the gigantic one that has all the mirrors available. What's the easiest way to fix it? Well, are you trying to sort it? Not exactly sure what you're asking there, Peter. I hate I missed the rest of your question. You might have clarified it, but the chat skipped ahead of me, Peter, and I couldn't read the rest of the message. Oh, I found it. Let's see. I can work a bit with Vim, but I am looking for an automated way to select one to a few countries. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. So you're not used to Vim. Is that the problem? Are you needing like some Vim commands, maybe to do like a quick macro or something to... That's more, I would probably have to demonstrate something like that. If you really knew what you were doing with Vim, you could just set up a macro so that every line that doesn't begin with United States, you delete those lines, and every line that starts with United States stays in the document. It's not actually that difficult to do. Google Vim macros. They're pretty easy to set up. Peter, yeah, he says, yes, I can work a bit with Vim, but I'm not used to macros. But you know what? That mirror list is not very long. Macros would save you time if you knew how to use them, because you could instantly do something with that mirror list. But you also could just, with the HJKL keys, the navigation keys, just go down to each line, and if it's a line you don't want because it's some server in Russia, DD to delete the line, and just keep moving down. Just DD every line. Yes, I know the document there is a couple hundred lines, but really it shouldn't take you a minute or two to do that. Just the standard navigate with the HJKL keys and DD the lines you don't want. Yeah, do you use a custom keyboard layout? Modifying your XKB for better productivity. I do have a custom keyboard layout because I have this ErgoDox keyboard. You guys that are new to the channel, about 2-3 months ago, I bought a ErgoDox Easy keyboard. And yes, you do have to create layouts for it. Even the default layout is nothing like your standard keyboard, so it's kind of a custom layout anyway, but you really kind of customize it to your own use case, your own workflow. When I first got my ErgoDox, there were some things about the default configuration of the keys that bothered me. For one thing, if you are a tiling window manager user like myself, pretty much everything you do involves the super key or the alt key, one or the other. Well, they had both super and alt not in the standard place on the keyboard, which is fine, except they had it as one of the thumb keys on the right hand instead of where it normally is on the left hand, and having to activate it with the thumb. And it's impossible to do something like super enter, because the super key and the enter key are right next to each other, and both of them are thumb keys, meaning they're activated by the thumb. You have to stretch your thumb over here to... So immediately I had to put the super key back in the right spot. in the normal spot on the keyboard. So that's one of the things, like I mentioned, you kind of have to customize it to your use case. If I wasn't a tiling window manager user, having the super key and the alt key in the places that they were would have been perfectly fine on the thumbs. But let's see. I am confident that it can be done. It's just that my skills with Vim are not good enough yet. Yeah. Peter, a demonstration from DT would be nice. I tell you what, Peter, I should make a video. It wouldn't take very long, a short video on macros. I haven't done anything with Vim in a while on the channel. Might be something I can do tomorrow evening. Get off work kind of early. Don't hold me to it, Peter. But I think that would be a fun and interesting video, because macros on Vim are actually it's not a complicated subject, and it's one of the things that really makes Vim such a powerful thing, a powerful text editor. And I'll try to use your example, Peter. I'll try to pull up like the big mirror list for March and use that as an example of something to edit. I've got a few other examples of things I could edit, things I've used macros before in the past that have helped me. Yeah, good idea though, Peter. Like I said, don't hold me to it, but I might get around to that tomorrow evening. Somebody asked, I'm sorry, I missed some of the chat, was asking why do I have two keyboards. So this keyboard here, I have it out. It's a wireless keyboard. I don't use it. I use this keyboard. The reason I keep this out sometimes is because if I need to use the function keys to get to a TY prompt, for example. Not something I have to do very often, but I don't have this configured in such a way that I can Control Alt F3, for example. Because Control and Alt are on one layer of the keyboard, if that makes sense. And then the function keys are on a different layer on the keyboard. And so it's impossible for me to do a Control Alt F3 or F4. So that's something I need to fix on this keyboard. I could set it up to where that's possible. I could rearrange the layouts a little bit. I just haven't got around to it. So those rare times when I need to drop down to a TTY prompt for something, I always pull out this keyboard. And I needed it the other day for something. Oh, the Arch installation videos I did the other day. That's why it's still sitting here. I haven't moved it since I pulled it out for that. Let's see. Why do you have to... Okay, I've already got the two keyboards questions. The thing which I remember the most from Visual Studio is that the install lasted 1 to 2 hours. Wow, that must have been on Windows. Surely that didn't happen on Linux. Hope not, anyway. DT, come on, man. I've asked the same question 3 times, and you've missed it. Hey, sorry. Well, what am I supposed to do? There's 150 people in the chat, Fareed. If it bothers you that I didn't read your question, then that's your problem, buddy, not mine. All right. Let's see, Fareed, Arch or any distro does not need a GUI installed, to be honest. Arch doesn't need a GUI installed. Very few people use Arch as a server distro because it's rolling release. Almost everybody that runs Arch uses it as a desktop distro, so to say it doesn't need a GUI installed, that's strange, Fareed. Let's see. DT, last try. Is it true that GitLab is hosted on Google's servers? I have no idea, Richard. I don't know the answer to that. It wouldn't shock me. What is your favorite password? I have a super secure password that I do like to use on all my virtual machines. I don't share it, obviously, for security reasons. Spending hundreds of dollars on a keyboard and can't do a Control-Alt plus function key. I can, I've just got to reprogram the keyboard. It's one of those things I almost never have to Control-Alt function. So, it's like once a month I'll have to do that. And then I'll realize, oh, I haven't got my keyboard set up in such a way that I can do that. All I need to do, though, is on the second layer where I have all the function keys. I just need to map one of the other keys to Control Alt, or actually map one of the other keys to activate both Control Alt, because this keyboard is customizable in such a way I can assign a single key to be Control plus Alt, or Control plus Alt plus Shift, or Control plus Alt plus Shift plus whatever. The sky's the limit on that. So I can create key combinations, key bindings on this keyboard that are not possible on a standard keyboard, which is kind of neat. Comes in handy, you know, if you use a lot of key bindings, you're a tiling window manager guy, for example. Yeah, Peter says, I won't hold you to it for tomorrow evening. A few days later would be great. Like I said, I might get around to it tomorrow, though, Peter. I don't think it would, you know, it's not the video that would take that much time to record and edit. But I think it's, I'm glad you brought up the topic, though, Peter, because I think it's one I should have covered by now. I haven't done much with Vim lately on the channel, really in a few months. Let's see. Missed some of the chat. What is your favorite tiling window manager so far? If I had to say what is my favorite tiling window manager of all time, it's got to be Xmonad. It's kind of been my favorite forever. It's actually also the first tiling window manager I ever tried. I tried Xmonad for the first time, I don't know, 10, 11 years ago. One of those I come back to kind of on a regular basis. Use it for a few months, move away to something else, come back to it. Xmonad gets a lot of things right. Yeah, Bronislav, will you make another interesting curl video? Probably not. That's not in the plans. I'm not sure. I mean, I covered most of the standard, like, fun stuff people do with curl. And I could get into more serious stuff, but that was one of those fun videos. You know, that was something for entertainment purposes, you know. And Big Pod, I'm assuming you're still talking about Visual Studio Code. You can basically pick and choose what parts of the IDE you want at the start. Then it does everything by itself after you define what you want. Yeah, but that's the case with Vim too, Big Pod. I mean, you define pretty much everything you want with it. Yeah, GitLab is hosted on GCP. Okay. Well, I don't hold GitLab anything against GitLab for hosting their stuff on Google servers. I mean, that's so many people host on the Google Cloud servers. Just like so many people use the Amazon servers, so many people use Microsoft servers now. Let's see, I might make videos on it sometime, says Siberian. BSD is bloat, says Bronislav. It can be, depending on the BSD system you're running. But yeah, Mitchell, he says BSD systems are usually the opposite of bloat. Most of them are. Again, it depends. And what are the differences between, I missed that, FreeBSD and Linux? And should I give it a try? For desktop use, what are the differences between FreeBSD and Linux? Linux is light years better. That's the difference. Linux is much more mature. All your hardware is going to work. You're going to have hardly any issues. You know, you plug in anything and it works. BSD is just not the case. BSD is going to be frustrating. So that's the difference. FreeBSD is like Linux except 20 years ago. What's the difference between DWM and Xmonad? Well, there's a lot of differences. DWM is written in C. Xmonad's written in Haskell. As far as how they actually function, they're actually very similar. Xmonad really copied a lot of the workflow and everything of DWM, how DWM kind of, even the key bindings, the default key bindings are basically the same. The big difference, though, is Xmonad handles multi-monitors completely different than the way DWM does. DWM, you have a set of workspaces on each monitor that are independent of each other. Xmonad, you have a set of workspaces that's shared among all the monitors. And I like that. Once you get, it's weird the first time you use Xmonad, the way it does multi-monitors, but once you get used to it, it makes sense. It's like, man, why doesn't every window manager do this? It's one of the reasons why Xmonad kind of became popular, in the early days. Xmonad's still pretty popular. Probably the most popular Haskell program out there. It's because multi-monitors. That was the big selling point. Hey, you have a ton of monitors? Give Xmonad a try. And they're right. Mitchell says, go with Slackware. Slackware is too old and stable for somebody like me, Mitchell, but it's a good distro. But you install Slackware right now, they're still using KDE 4.12, I think, on those images. Of course, you can update it to Plasma. Super chat there, Carol. You didn't have a question, Carol? Usage. Yeah, once you get used to them, though, it's just second nature. It's not as weird as you might think, because most of the time you're just dealing with one program open at a time anyway, one program full screen. Your browser's always just one window full screen, just like in a floating window manager. It's not like you're really doing any real tiling most of the time. I rarely have a lot of windows up and I have them tiled. That's not typically the way I use my tiling window manager. Right now, those of you that can see the camera above me pointing down, I actually have my windows right now in a floating mode. Now, I never use floating mode in just my daily use, but when I'm recording, I often do floating mode. And the reason I do that is because I'm recording some of these screens, in OBS. Some of these layouts, like this browser layout and this IRC layout and this chat layout. I'm capturing those windows. And in floating layout, I can size the windows exactly how they need to be in OBS. Where in a tiling layout, of course, it would be all screwed up unless I design my OBS scenes for a particular tiling layout. Which I've done that in the past too. Some of my Qtile layouts, when I log into Qtile, they're set up for certain scenes I have in OBS. So, tiling window managers, by the way, make things like recording in OBS a lot easier. Like if you're ever trying to capture a window and it needs to be on a specific monitor at an exact size, tiling window managers make that so much easier than floating window managers. I missed some of the chat, guys. I apologize. Drew, have you ever considered a completely open source OS like Parabola? I have, but until recently, it wasn't even a possibility. I've always been an NVIDIA user until this new machine that I bought about 3 months ago has an AMD card. But before that, I always had NVIDIA cards, and with NVIDIA, you have to use the proprietary drivers. You can't use the free drivers with NVIDIA. I mean, you can, but they're not usable for like the stuff I do, right? Content creation, video content creation, gaming, if you were a serious gamer, obviously. Of course, if you're a serious gamer, just one of these free distros are not going to work for you anyway. Also, laptops. Do you have one of the Broadcom chips in your laptop? If so, they don't have a free driver. Not free in the Richard Stallman sense of free. That could be a problem. So unless you have hardware that can run those distros, you can't run them. most people probably don't have hardware that can run those distros, or at least not effectively. You really have to be careful with laptops, though. Before you just decide that one day you're going to put one of these FSF approved distros like Parabola or Triskel on a laptop, you better check the Wi-Fi chip. Make sure it's compatible. Otherwise, you're never going to have internet. So. Let's see. Sorry. Somebody was asking, multi-monitor on i3, question mark. I'm not sure if you're asking how does i3 handle multi-monitors. It handles multi-monitors differently than, like Xmonad, I mentioned, just one set of workspaces shared across all monitors, meaning this is workspace 1, this is workspace 2, this is workspace 3. I decide to move workspace 3 to workspace 1. They switch places. That's the way Xmonad does it, and it makes sense when you think about it. i3 and DWM and Awesome, they typically have monitors that have their own set of workspaces, and the monitors operate independently of each other, if that makes sense. Xmonad and Qtile are the only ones I think that have the workspaces shared amongst all the monitors. At least just off the top of my head, I think they're the only two that I've tried that do that. Yeah, so Luke says, current terminal emulator, ST. Still using ST. So ever since I did the Suckless challenge a few months ago, and where I switched to DWM, ST, Surf, and D-Menu, I've stuck with all of them. I've stuck with ST. ST is always going to be my terminal emulator, I think, from now on. At least, you know, for the foreseeable future. I've got no reason to switch from it. I still use D-Menu. D-Menu's ST and D-Menu are just fantastic. I still have DWM on my system. I don't log into it very much, but it's still there, still configured, still works. If I could have done this live stream from inside DWM if I wanted to. And I still have Surf on the system. I actually haven't pulled it up in a while, Surf, but if I could still do Surf here, Surf, and let's go to suckless.org, and we'll give it a URL. So that's D-Menu, of course, I'm launching this with. And of course, there's suckless.org and Surf here. Now I'm in tiling mode, here's floating mode. So I still got Surf on here. Alright. Yeah, ThinkPads can run Parabola and Triskel, says Steven. Let's see. Hey, DT, I'm running an Asus laptop with an NVIDIA GPU, no Intel. I'm doing great with Manjaro, except when resuming from sleep. There are probably workarounds. Any input? I don't have a laptop with an NVIDIA GPU, so no. I don't have an Asus laptop either. That's going to be something you probably should just ask in the Manjaro forums. Manjaro forums are pretty active, great community. You probably get an answer right away on that, just asking those guys. It's hard for me to answer support type questions, especially when it involves specific hardware that I don't own. So, yeah, have you seen any Christian stuff video from Tom of Switch to Linux? Oh, yeah, I have. Tom is a man of many talents. So I know he has his Christian channel, and there for a while he was doing a cooking channel too. I don't know if he still does any cooking videos. But I know he focuses mainly on the Linux stuff, because I know he's said many times on his streams that, you know, he just gets a lot more views on his Linux content than his other content, so. Yeah, it spawns 1 on a monitor and 2 on the other. It says Rayman. Are you talking about, i3 is what you were talking about on that. Weird thing about i3 too is i3 only shows you what workspace you're on as far as the bar. If you're using the i3 panel or polybar or any panel, it only shows you the workspace you're on now in the panel instead of the best way for me to show you. Like I've got what 8 or 9 workspaces here in Awesome Window Manager, and it shows all of them. The one highlighted is the one I'm currently on this monitor, right? And in i3, you're only going to get that one workspace that I'm currently on. It's not even going to show you these. You don't know how many other workspaces you have. They don't show up in the panel, and the reason that is, it's just the way i3 is built, the way it was programmed. Because technically all those other workspaces, they don't exist yet. They don't exist until you actually go to them. So they never show but the one workspace in the panel. Just strange. I'm not used to that. Yeah, so Koyo says, by the way, I'm now a patron. Appreciate that, Koyo. What do you do for a living? Sorry if it was already asked. I work in retail. But that's a common question. I don't mind answering it. It's what I've been doing for years now. I work in retail. I am working a management for a rather large retailer. All right. DT, would you give your keyboard a purchase recommendation? Will you do a full review after using it for a longer time? The plan was to do another video after using the ErgoDocs for some time. I've used the ErgoDocs enough now. I probably could do another video on it. That's another video I need to get around to making probably soon. As far as could I give it a recommendation? Absolutely. Absolutely. Love the keyboard. Is it worth the nearly $400 I spent on it? That's debatable. I mean, but of course that's going to depend on you. You know, that's going to vary from person to person. Have you ever considered Spectre WM? It is like DWM, but easier to configure. I have not. That was Marcus asking that. I've had people ask me about Spectre. I might look at it at some point. Again, it's not something I've ruled out. It's not something I've gotten around to yet. Yeah, DT, what desktop virtualization manager do you recommend? I am running Debian Buster. That was David on that. Okay, so you're wanting desktop virtualization. So you're wanting, I use VirtualBox if that's what you're asking. You just want a hypervisor to run some Linux VMs in, or even a Windows VM. VirtualBox is what I've been using for years. I've tried many others though. KVM works just fine. Got no problem with KVM. You guys, I know a lot of you GNOME users are really liking the new GNOME boxes. And I've played around with that a little bit when I install, GNOME distros or whatever for the channel. Oftentimes GNOME boxes will be there, and I've played with it a little bit. It works. They all work. I just stick with VirtualBox because it's what I know. And VirtualBox is great. It does a lot of stuff. Have you... sorry, I think I've already read that one. Yo, what's up? Do you drink coffee? That's Titan64. I drink coffee all the time. So, yeah, if you're new to the channel, I'm often sitting here drinking a cup of coffee. Except in the evenings, I'll allow myself some beer. So I don't do anything with sugar. I have cut out sugar years ago. So all I drink is water, black coffee, unsweetened tea. If I have to drink a soda, it's going to be something diet. Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi, Coke Zero. No, I'd prefer just water most of the time. Yeah, so we got another super chat. Appreciate that, Stephen Plank. Thank you, buddy. Sincerely, much appreciated. All right. Yeah, DT, can you make a video on Ansible? No, probably not. Don't know anything about it. I mean, I guess I could make a video on anything, but I'd have to spend some time to learn some of these topics myself. So there are other people that are better suited for covering that topic than me. Kind of like the Emacs when people were asking about earlier. you know, somebody that's actually lived in Emacs for years, you know, and there's plenty of them on YouTube. Yeah, they should make videos about that, not somebody that knows nothing about Emacs and is just installing it for the first time. I mean, that would be rather pretentious of myself to think I'm going to make an Emacs video sometime this week and don't know anything about it. I appreciate the super chat there, Steve. Yeah, Derek, thanks for your time and dedication. Thanks, Steve. I really appreciate that. All right, let me see if I can get caught back up on some of the chat here. Yes, Siberin says, I'll try out Termite. Termite is a great terminal emulator. I've used it forever too. It's probably my favorite terminal emulator, Termite, other than, obviously, I'm in ST right now. Been using ST, but Termite, I like it because it's got its own config file that's easy to set up. It doesn't use the XResources file that URXVT and Xterm use, which I'm okay with the XResources config, but I don't know, Termite does a lot of things well. Also handles Unicode fonts pretty well, Termite does. Termite gets a lot of things right. Yeah, so GNOME 30-day challenge. When? That's not... you guys want to see that? That's... I don't think it would be as interesting as what you guys think it would be. Alright, man, if you want to, I mean, I could sudo pacman -S GNOME right now and favorite beer at the moment. The favorite one is the one I'm drinking, Dos Equis. I don't have a favorite. People often ask that because I'm always drinking a different beer. Bit of a beer aficionado. I've had most every beer out there. Favorites, I don't like drinking the same thing all the time either, so I like trying new things. I don't really have a favorite one I'm going to drink every day. That's not me. Yeah, hey DT, I've been using Arco, Awesome Window Manager Edition as well, but I could never get the Vim key bindings to display when I pull up the shortcut menu. Any tips on how to get this to actually work? It works for me, so I don't know. And I was using the default Arco config, so again, for support questions, you probably just need to go to the Arco forums and ask Eric Dubois and those folks. But if I pull up something in Vim, like my awesome config file here, and we'll go ahead and get into tiling mode here. All right, I'll zoom in a little bit too so we can actually read what's going on. But as long as I have Vim open, I should be able to get the hotkeys, the key bindings. Let's see. One thing, how do I get the menu to come up? I forgot what the key binding to get the menu to come up is. I rarely ever pull up the menu. I might have to search for the key binding. I know I should know it. I know it's not. I know it's not any of those. Oh no, this might not be one we figure out too quickly. Alright, so mod key shift return, that's not it. How do I get the menu? Tell you what, help me out here. The guy that was asking the question about Arco, awesome. What is the key binding to bring up the menu? That way I don't have to search my config file for it. I'll drink a beer while I wait. I know there's like a 20-second delay between me asking and you being able to answer in the chat. While I wait, though, I guess I could keep looking. Mod key S. There it is. I found it. Thanks anyway. Alright. But yeah, so I have Vim open, and because I have Vim open, I have Vim command, Vim find, Vim motion, Vim operators. Now if I don't have Vim open, so let me escape. I'm going to close Vim. And now I do mod S. There's no Vim key bindings here. That only shows when Vim is open, so that may be your problem. If that's not your problem, though, it's going to be something wrong with Arco's config. If you haven't modified it in any way and you're still using the default config, you should let the Arco guys know. That way they can fix it. You know, it'd be good for you to file that bug report for them. If you want to check out my config, it's on my GitLab page. That may give you a clue to what the problem is. I don't know. All right, yeah. So, hey DT, what is a good font for the terminal? I've always used bitmap fonts. Yeah, bitmap fonts, they look good, but now because our terminals are so much bigger in size and resolution and everything, those bitmap fonts don't work like they worked 20 years ago. They're not good. Right now I'm using the font I'm using and all the terminals stuff you see. I'm using Mononoke. Mononoke. M-O-N-O-K. M-O-N-O-N-O-K-I. Mononoke. Nerd font. Ubuntu Mono is great also for a terminal font that's very easy on the eyes and very easy to read. I really like Ubuntu Mono, actually. Appreciate that, Red Robbo. Appreciate the super chat, buddy. Go on, Derek. Vanilla GNOME for a month. I tell you what, we may install it before the stream's over. Yeah, Leone, Xorg is bloat. Xorg is bloat, but what's the alternative? Not having Xorg? I mean, we have to have the graphical server. So, yeah, DT, talking about GNOME boxes, did you notice any particular problems, performance issues, UX design issues? I didn't play with it enough to notice any major problems with it. Seemed to work, you know, just installing, you know, like Ubuntu and a VM and GNOME boxes, you know, everything just seemed to work, but I didn't do that many things with it. DT, do you feel that you're under control of system while it runs systemd? Yeah, I feel fine with systemd. I know for you, it's like it just works, but what about the internal processes? Do you feel that you control them? Well, I guess I feel that I have control of them, yes. Do I control them? Like, am I having to actively control them? No, systemd, of course, handles pretty much everything in the background, you know. You don't have to think about systemd most of the time. But if I needed to do something, yeah, I feel like I could handle systemd. Why, do you feel like systemd is out of control? Like it's being naughty and doing things that, I don't know. Not sure where you were going with that, Fareed. I have no problem with systemd, though. You guys know that. Yes, I know it's bloated. Systemd is a bloated mess, but as far as, yeah, it works as a init system. If you want to complain that systemd is bloated, I'll give you that. But some of the hate towards systemd, I think is a little ridiculous. Yeah, DT, Suckless doesn't even use GitHub. GitHub is bloat. I do know that. That Suckless doesn't have a GitHub page. I wish they did. The suckless.org website could be better. But, you know, I get in trouble every time I say that because then some of the Suckless fanboys, there's nothing wrong with suckless.org. It's perfect. Yeah, GNOME 30-day challenge off camera with updates every 2 weeks. And Peter, I would like you to give KDE Plasma another shot now that you have that Radeon 7 card. I think that you would like it. I would be okay with Plasma. I was fine with Plasma the first time. I was glad to get off of KDE Plasma after that 1 month using it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the day I went back to OpenBox from Plasma was a very happy day. But I lived in Plasma just fine. It's not like I hated being at my computer because Plasma was running. You know, that's why I think the GNOME thing, I don't think you guys would be... I don't think it would be as entertaining as what you guys think. I can install... I promise you, I could install any desktop environment or window manager known to man, run it for 30 days, and I would be okay. I'd make it work, you know. If I have to hack on it a bit, so be it. I'll make it work for me. And then Mr. GFY, he's sharing his fonts, the nerd fonts. Yeah, the nerd fonts are great. You can install all of the nerd fonts. There's a big meta package of all the nerd fonts in Arch's AUR if you run an Arch-based distro. Now, it's a gigantic download. So if you don't want all the nerd fonts, don't install that package, but you can install a single nerd font like Ubuntu Mono Nerd Font or Mononoke Nerd Font or whatever. Or just download it. Download like the zip of all the fonts and then extract the fonts you want and then manually place them in user share fonts. Then refresh the cache, the font cache. Yeah, Bob, my favorite beer is Shiner Bock. Shiner Bock ain't bad. Not my favorite, not something I drink very often, but if you offered me one, Bob, I'd drink it. Yeah, thoughts on Void Linux. Void Linux is a great distro, actually. I wouldn't mind running Void Linux on my main production machine. Might give that a try sometime. Maybe the next time I feel like hopping on the production machine, instead of sticking with an Arch base, I may do Void. I've liked Void when I've taken a look at it in VMs. I've also installed it a couple of times on some of my laptops. The repos have most of the software I'm looking for, you know. I like the Void repos better than the Solus repos, for example. In Solus, I find that they don't have much of the software I'm looking for, actually. The Solus repos are lacking, but Void repos, the repositories are pretty full. Yeah, Mitchell, Fedora 31 will ship with the GNOME software snap plugin disabled. Yep, I read that story. Whereas Ubuntu 20.04 will not use GNOME software despite using GNOME as the default desktop environment. Well, this has been a problem with Ubuntu for a while, is they don't have any control at all of the desktop environment, GNOME, which of course is basically a Red Hat project. Which is really why they went with Unity, and Unity was great. Unity was so much better than GNOME 3 was back then, or probably ever will be. But then they dropped Unity and went with GNOME, but then they're trying to hack GNOME in such a way to make it better, and I think the Ubuntu guys do a better job with GNOME. It's certainly better than your vanilla GNOME. But then you're having to maintain that code rather than just using a desktop environment that you don't have to hack on. You know, if mainline Ubuntu just switched the default desktop environment to Budgie, for example. I'm just throwing that out there. Mark Shuttleworth, if you're listening, if you just switch mainline Ubuntu over to the Budgie desktop environment, it would solve so many issues. So, just something to consider. Anonym, do you want to chew on Richard Stallman's leg? Negative. I don't want to chew on anything of Richard Stallman's. I know Richard himself likes to chew on his own feet. It's kind of disgusting, though. Thoughts on the Joe editor? Never used it. I don't need any other text editors. Once you have Vim and you kind of know how to use Vim, there's no reason to play with anything else. Awesome Window Manager. How do you configure the bar? There's config files for it. Jason was asking that. Go to my GitLab page, Jason. You'll find my configs there. Just start reading the config files. You'll kind of see what's going on there. If you want, read the Awesome Window Manager page in the Arch Wiki. Go to the Arch Wiki and read about Awesome Window Manager. It'll have some configuration stuff there too to read. I'm sure Awesome Window Manager has an official website too. Yeah, trust me, chat. NerdFonts has a Linux font patcher, etc., etc. Look it up. Okay. Can you end the stream on the Richard Stallman song, please? Yeah, you know what? I should sing the Richard Stallman, the free software song. Matter of fact, I wish I had one of my musical instruments out. I could play it. We might do that as well. Hey DT, were you the one that received the $500 ransom email when the hacker disabled your AV and stuff? That was me. Yes, he got me. I should have known something was up when I was sitting there watching that midget porn on X Hamster or whatever, and then I saw my webcam light up. I should have stopped what I was doing, but you know what's sad though? That there's probably people out there that email that they actually think that, oh wow, the other day I was doing something very naughty. Did he really have control of my webcam? Especially if you were a celebrity or some kind of public figure. Wouldn't you send them the $500 just to be on the safe side? I'd love to ask the guy how much money he's made on that. You know what? I should see if I could contact him. Maybe invite him to do a live stream. You guys want to see an interview with a scammer? I doubt he would do it on camera, but it'd be interesting. Even if he just wanted to converse via email, if he'd answer some questions, that'd be kind of interesting. All right, DT, do you feel that you're under control of system? D, well, okay, you've already asked me that, Fareed. Why are you asking the same question? All right, Mitchell. DT, if you spend time with Vanilla GNOME, please use Fedora or even Arch. Okay, I tell you what. And since Red Robbo, he asked for it in his super chat. Sudo Pac-Man -S GNOME. I feel dirty hitting enter right now because I would never do this on any of my physical machines. Good Lord, this is going to be just a massively bloated install. And it's going to install so much crap that I would never use. It's going to install the Totem video player. Wow. It's going to install Nautilus, the worst file manager of all time. It's going to... I want to cancel the download. I just want to stop it. Yeah, don't forget GNOME-extra. Yeah, we should add... We'll add everything. Why not? I once got a letter from a legit Nigerian prince asking for a short-term loan to regain his throne. His dad passed away, and he was in exile in Ghana. Chronic Pillow says his hacker asked him for $800. Same situation. Yeah, Telcerus. Oh God, look at that list. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not happy about this. This is not something it's going to install the GNOME terminal. I'm not going to use the GNOME terminal. I guess I should. If I do the GNOME 30-day challenge, I guess I have to do GNOME terminal. Yeah, why not? We'll just do all the GNOME. I'll use Nautilus. I'll use it all. Why not? Rhythmbox and gedit. I like gedit. For a plain text editor, gedit's actually pretty good. DT, how hard would it be to code a patch for Surf? Thinking maybe adding in a cookie editor. I don't think it would be that hard. You got to understand these patches. Go to the suckless.org website and download some of the patches for Surf. Some of the patches are just a few lines. I give you some idea of what you're looking at. Some of the patches are more complicated than others, though. And I guess it depends on what you're trying to do. Yeah. Loopester. You're funny, DT. Hey. Kuber Jan. GNOME. That's right. GNOME, folks. Yes, the GNOME terminal. Yeah, this is going to be great. And the download is already done. Yeah, Luke is saying any video editing software recommendations. I haven't played around with many others other than Kdenlive. Kdenlive is where you want to be for free and open source software. If you want a free and open source video editor, it's got to be Kdenlive. I've played around with some of the others. They're not great. GNOME has one called Pativi. I might install it if it's part of the GNOME. I might have Pativi right now. I don't know. It's okay. It doesn't have a lot of functions that Kdenlive has. Shotcut is okay. OpenShot is okay. Kdenlive is just far away the best, though, for free and open source software. If you want something better than Kdenlive, proprietary solutions, DaVinci Resolve, I don't know. I couldn't use DaVinci Resolve. I think you can only use DaVinci Resolve in Linux. It's only officially supported on Red Hat and CentOS. Also, I think it doesn't work with AMD cards. I have an AMD card, so I couldn't even play with DaVinci Resolve to test it out for you. Lightworks is an option on Linux too. It's proprietary software. It's expensive, but I'm sure it works just fine. Alright, so since that download worked, should we go ahead and install the GNOME extras? So sudo pacman-s gnome-extras. Or is it gnome-extra? Yeah, gnome-extra, no S. And this installs the dconf editor, evolution email. I don't want any of this. I don't want GNOME builder. I don't want all the GNOME games, GNOME tweaks. GNOME tweaks I might want. Polari. Like literally I don't want any of this stuff. Yeah. I don't want any of that stuff. Other than GNOME tweaks. So what I'll do is I'll go back and manually just install GNOME or GNOME tweaks if I can type it right. But I do not want that GNOME extras package. Keep typing the wrong thing. I've gotten into VI mode here in the shell and it's messing me up. Did I spell that right? I think I did. Okay, so we got GNOME tweaks. So we just installed the base GNOME package and GNOME tweaks separately. I'm not going to play GNOME chess and Sudoku and all that stuff. It doesn't make sense to install the extra package. GNOME twerks. Yeah, I did type twerks. Yeah, slipped up there for a second. Yeah. Thanks for the stream and the talk, DT. I'll be leaving now. See ya. Thanks, Luke. Thanks for hanging out. I probably won't stream too much longer. Yeah, best video editor is Emacs. You all know it, so why are you writing all that nonsense? Emacs does not have a video editor. I'm certain of that. Why do you hate yourself, DT? Are you still using Manjaro? I am not. Well, I'm not using Manjaro on my main production machine. I do have Manjaro i3 edition on one of the laptops behind me. But I'm using Arco. Both are Arch-based distros. They're essentially Arch. Manjaro and Arco. They're basically Arch. Yeah, you're going full freak. GNOME Extra is bloat. Yeah, and there was nothing in that GNOME Extra package that anybody would really want. GNOME Sound Recorder was in there. I don't need it. GNOME NetTool, Network Manager. I don't need any of that stuff because I've already got it. A Network Manager installed on the system. GNOME Multiwriter. I don't need Mines. Don't need any of that stuff. So close the terminal out on that. All right. Not much going on in the IRC chat. And Big Pod says, DT, GNOME chess isn't bad. Huh. Not a chess player, though. But I'll take your word on it. Yeah, Prophetic says, sup. What up, what up? Yeah, you don't need to install GNOME tweaks after installing GNOME-extras. Yeah, because it installs it for you. And GNOME chess is good. Nice front end for GNU chess. Ah, I didn't know the GNU guys had a chess game. It makes sense. It's probably part of Emacs. Do you like the Cinnamon desktop, DT? I'm not a fan of Cinnamon. I don't like the old Windows 7 kind of workflow that Cinnamon kind of recreates. As far as look and feel and function, yeah, it's a fine desktop environment. It's just not something I would use. For people that want that Windows-like experience, except in Linux, Cinnamon makes a lot of sense. Honestly, KDE Plasma makes a lot of sense too. And between those two, I'd probably run Plasma before I'd run Cinnamon. Seems like it's a bit more mature of a desktop environment. More polished for sure. Prettier. Aesthetics do mean something. More stable, actually. And lighter weight, actually. Plasma's a bit lighter than Cinnamon these days. DT, do you use any touch typing tutor programs? Not much. Sometime when I got my new keyboard, I had to relearn how to type. And I did some of that with one of the websites that the ErgoDocs website recommends. I can't remember what it is now, but if you go to the ErgoDocs website, they recommend a website to go to learn how to type again. It's one of these websites that gives you a line to type, and it's basically like speed typing. See how fast you can get without making mistakes. Yeah, awesome is better than Qtile? ? That's Alan. No. Different? Yeah. Better? Not really. Awesome and Qtile have some major differences. I mentioned Qtile and Xmonad. The way they handle multi-monitors is completely different than the way window managers like DWM and Awesome, for example, handle multi-monitors. Which is better? That'll depend on preference. A lot of people like the way Awesome does it. I prefer the way Qtile does it. I could live happily forever after in either Awesome or Qtile, though. They're both fantastic tiling window managers. Easy to configure. The default configs that they ship with make a lot of sense, too. Yeah, DT, you don't need to install the GNOME tweak after GNOME Extra. Yes, we know that by now. I didn't install GNOME Extra. Did you not see me cancel the download? You may have not understood what I was doing there. I hit Control-C on the keyboard after it told me what all it was going to install. That killed that command. So I didn't install the GNOME Extra package. Yeah, DT, still no treadmill desk? I've thought about doing something like that. Maybe do a standing desk that you could have a treadmill on and get a little bit of some cardio in while you're sitting at... I don't know. Not sure how I would get along with something like that. I don't hate the idea, though. Something I've played around in my mind a little bit with. Yeah, Jason says, DT, I just installed Kdenlive on your recommendation. I think you'll be happy with Kdenlive. Well, I don't know if you'll be happy with it, but there's no good alternatives. If you want to stick with free and open source software, Kdenlive, that's really the only thing we have. Yeah, do you prefer to directly install things or use app images instead? I don't care either way. If it's in the repository, though, I'm always just going to pull something down from the central repository of the distribution I'm running. I expect that stuff to be far safer and secure than just getting an app image. Not that app images are insecure. I know people love to talk a lot of trash about snaps and flatpaks and app images. Maybe they're not curated, and who knows what some of those packages contain, and there is some truth in that. But anything that comes from your distro's core repository really should be secure. Like I would always install something there first, then going and getting a third-party package. Yeah, do you have a video showing how to update Grub using OS Prober? I do not. That was Jay Cook asking that. Yeah. Got some people recommending TV shows to watch. Did you manually map your keys? Did I manually map my keys? Are you asking about the window manager, the key bindings that are set up? If so, yes. If you're talking about the keyboard itself, like flashing the firmware and figuring out what key I want where, the answer to that is also yes. Probably whatever you meant with that question, the answer is going to be yes on that. What are you using for mail? Thunderbird? I have Thunderbird installed. I don't use it. I have been a Thunderbird user since the beginning, since Firefox and Thunderbird came out. I've always used it. It's great, cross-platform. These days, though, I use NeoMut, which is a terminal email client, which is great. If I need a GUI email client, I also have Geary installed on the system. Why do I have Geary? I installed it one day just to see what it was about, and I kind of like the UI. It's not as fully featured as Thunderbird in any way, but the layout and everything's pretty clean. So do you want a good graphical email program to check out? Geary. Check it out. I think you'd be surprised. If you like email in the terminal, NeoMut. So, yeah, Bronislav. FFmpeg is way better than Kdenlive. Yes, FFmpeg is not really a video editor, though. I mean, you can cut and paste and things in FFmpeg, but you can't do everything that is in Kdenlive. Like, some people think that the video editor is just a front end to FFmpeg, which there's some functions that are just a front end to FFmpeg, but there's a lot of other stuff in Kdenlive that has nothing to do with FFmpeg. FFmpeg is not even in the same league as a proper video editor like Kdenlive. Yes, it's cool though. I mean, I could record a few different clips, and if I just wanted to not do much with them, no wiping transitions or any kind of screen and screen effects or anything, yes, I could just put all them clips together with FFmpeg and render a single video and upload it to YouTube. And I have done that in the past. In the early days of my channel, you know, some of the more simple videos I did, yeah, I did that. Kind of stuff I do nowadays, there's no way I could do that. You can't do some of the stuff I want to do with just FFmpeg. I also see people also make that same mistake with something like OBS, which I use to do this stream. Like, most of OBS is just a front end to FFmpeg, which is not true at all, right? Yeah, so let's see what time it is. So we've been streaming about an hour and 15 minutes. I'll probably go a few more minutes with you guys, and then I'll probably jump off. I don't know, about 15 minutes. Like I said, I do have to get to bed kind of early tonight because I have to get up very early in the morning. Got an early day at work tomorrow. Yeah, sure. Thanks, DT. That was great. Till next time. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, gotta go make some dinner for Wolf. Yeah. DT, as far as I'm aware, OBS doesn't really use FFmpeg, but it's libraries, yeah. Yeah, my point there was, Big Pot, some people mistakenly think OBS is basically just this front end to FFmpeg, and it's not. Because I've had people tell me, why do you use OBS? It's bloat. Just do everything with FFmpeg. And it's like, how am I going to do this live stream? FFmpeg. If somebody's got an answer to that, I'd love to hear it. So. Hey DT, what IRC client are you using at the moment? This is IRSSI. 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 It's a terminal IRC client. Been around forever. Easy to use. So if you like IRC chat in the terminal, IRSSI is good. Another option is WeChat. It's another terminal IRC client. It's fine too. Both just work. If you prefer something with a GUI, HexChat is often installed by default on a lot of Linux distros out there. And HexChat is fine. If you happen to be one of those weirdos that likes Plasma, see if Conversation with a K is installed. It's actually not bad. And yes, I was joking, you weirdos that run Plasma. Speaking of which, I'm now a weirdo that runs GNOME. I should log out and log back in GNOME. Yeah, I've got, like I said, I'll probably stream another 10-15 minutes. Should we log out and log back in GNOME? I gotta stop the stream for about 30 seconds. What do you say, guys? You guys decide. Those of you that have been around the channel, you guys know I don't mind killing a stream and then coming back. Let's see the GNOME world. Sure. Yes. All right, Big Pod really wants to see GNOME. That's not shocking, though. Big Pod is a huge GNOME fanboy. Well, let's see if it works. If I'm not back in 30 seconds, you'll know it didn't work. All right, so let me kill my window manager and kill OBS. Okay. I hope everything is working. And then I'm going to have to play around with OBS a little bit so you guys get to see. Wow, I forgot Epiphany was going to be the web browser. I'm not using Epiphany. That's where I draw the line, guys. I am going to actually open up Firefox. I said I was going to use the GNOME utilities and stuff, but I have too much respect for myself to use Epiphany. We're not doing that. Alright, because this is no longer a tiling window manager too, it's going to cause me some problems with my scenes. Alright guys, how are things? Do I have audio? Is everything working? Since this is the first time me logging in here to GNOME. Epiphany, yeah. I normally capture. So, I wonder if I can move the panel. This might be a job for the GNOME tweak thingy. Let's see if I can open up the tweaks. Let's see. Workspaces. I don't want to fool with that. Windows. Top bar. Is that the... How do I make that panel on this screen? Big Pod, you're the GNOME fanboy. How do I move the panel? Let's see. Well, I can show you what I'm talking about. Let me no longer capture my second monitor and go to my first. See, that panel is way over here. DT, do you need help? Yeah. DT, what is your typing speed? I have no idea. I haven't timed it. DT, not without an extension. I can't move that panel without an extension. Okay. Well, this brings up an interesting question I hadn't thought about. So, if I can't... Am I allowed to run extensions, or does this have to be... Does this 30-day GNOME challenge have to be vanilla GNOME? You guys decide. As far as I remember, but you can go to the top bar part so I can see. Wow, 800 megabytes of bloat. Can't do something simple without an extension. You know, it's funny you mentioned that. We should open up the GNOME terminal now, since that's going to be the one, I think. Wow, it looks horrible. But anyway, we don't want to look at it. We want to look at HTOP. See what RAM we're using. Now I am streaming, so the fact that it's using over 6 gigs of RAM, that's still shocking. That's still bad. Oh, that's horrible. Okay, it's settling back down to under 5 gigs. Let's close that. That's just sad to look at. I don't know how you guys talked me into that. I blame Red Rabo on this though, and Big Pod. Yeah, Bud Lab says that extension is called Polybar. I have Polybar already installed, of course. Yeah, I could just launch Polybar. Or I could maybe put a dock on one of the other monitors. The 80s Cyborg Ninja. Hey DT, love the channel. Have you used Sway with the Kitty terminal? Just curious on any HDPI issues I should know about. I have not used either Sway or Kitty. Sway, it would be hard for me to live in Sway with Wayland. I like X. X works, and Wayland does not really work all that well. Plus, there's i3, right? I mean, why? It's already i3. I have it installed. I use it. Why Sway? Kitty, I might look at it at some point. I don't know. Yeah, who uses GNOME when you can use KDE? That is unheard of, says Peter. Did it install those hideous Adwaita icons? Yes, I did not install Adwaita or any icon set, I don't think, on this system originally. Whatever Arco shipped with by default. I don't think it was Adwaita either. Not on the Awesome Window Manager edition, which is what this was. Let's see. Yeah, DT, go to the top bar part of GNOME Tweaks. Top bar. Application menu. I turn it off. It says configuration changes require a restart. But I want that. I can turn the clock off. And set it to show the weekday as well. And set it to show seconds. And that's just for the clock and calendar. Yeah, it really doesn't do anything, Big Pod here. I was thinking GNOME with multi-monitors was better than this. I was thinking that there was a panel on every screen, or that at least I could move the panel to whatever screen I wanted to. It doesn't make sense for GNOME to just pick which monitor. If it can only be on one, they really have to let the user decide. Because if I have a 3-monitor system, I want the panel obviously on the middle of the 3 monitors. It doesn't make sense for it to be on the far left or the far right monitor. I'm hating this already. Alright guys, I'm going to kill the stream in about 5 minutes. So, last call for alcohol here. Anybody got anything to say? Get it in now so that it's captured forever in the YouTube chat. Peter, I gave DT a way out by suggesting KDE Plasma, but he decided to install GNOME instead. I've done the Plasma challenge, Peter. What's the point of doing it again? What tiling window manager would you recommend for someone who has never used one? I would recommend Awesome Window Manager if you've never used a tiling window manager. Because as it's configured by default, Awesome is pretty great. Where some of the other tiling window managers are not going to be configured when you first install them. And if you don't know what you're doing, it can be a hassle. Awesome comes with a panel. Built in, ready to go. Awesome also comes with a right-click application menu. Out of the box, ready to go. So you don't have to worry about knowing all the default key bindings or any of that when you first log in. Yeah, Big Pod, DT. Go through every menu. It might be under appearance. Yeah, it might be. You would think it would be here, but it's not. We got theme, which is nothing. Background, which is, I guess, just the wallpaper. And the lock screen wallpaper as well. Extensions. Let's see what extension. What I get. Are these extensions actually installed? The PAMAC updates indicator. That would be interesting if I turn that on. I'm assuming that's just going to be like something in the sys tray that lets me know I have some updates available. I don't think I have PAMAC installed unless they installed it. I know I didn't install PAMAC. Anyway. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not seeing anything here. No. Oh well. I'll Google it or DuckDuckGo it after the stream. DT, gonna live in Fedora Silverblue for a couple weeks myself. Here we go, GNOME for me for a couple of weeks. Yeah. I think this will be fun. I don't like bloating up my machine because, you know, when this is done, I'm getting rid of GNOME. And my drive is going to be littered with all this crap we just installed. I'll probably have to do a fresh install of something after I'm done with GNOME, just to make sure we get the system cleaned up a little bit. Which is fine, I don't mind. You know, every few months wiping out the system, doing a fresh install. Yeah, DT, login manager, or well, I already had LightDM installed on the system. So GNOME probably installed GDM, but I already have LightDM and it's already been enabled with systemd. So I won't fool with GDM. Unless you guys think it's kind of cheating if I'm taking the GNOME challenge and not using their login manager. But one login manager is the same as the rest, I guess. Yeah, DT, last time I used GNOME, it did not have top bar on every screen. It may not have, but I thought it was configurable. I don't remember having this problem where I couldn't move it before. Maybe it was an extension, though. I don't know. DT, then you could do an install of Gentoo instead of Arch. Well, I don't know. If on the production machine, I know I don't want to live in Gentoo. I don't want to fool with the compilation times. You know, every time you install something or update something. That would not be fun for me. No, some people would like it. I would hate it. But that might be the time to hop to something like Void, which I mentioned I might want to run on my production machine at some point. Yeah, Morgan, DT, do you use Homely or some other dot file manager? I do not. I don't use Stow or any of that stuff. So I can't comment. I'm sure they all work fine, though. Yeah, your Threadripper should rip through the compiling, you would think. Let's see. Isn't the lock screen broken in GNOME if you don't use GDM? I'm not sure. But if it is, that's not a big deal either. I typically don't have a lock screen enabled on this computer anyway. I don't want the screen to lock. If I'm logged into the system, you know, just like if I wanted to actually lock the system, I would log out or shut down the computer altogether. Yeah, Fareed. DT, why do you want to go Void over Arch? What's the main causes of it? Just to try something different. We just try stuff here, Fareed. Kind of like I'm trying GNOME now. No normal person, no sane person would choose GNOME over Awesome Window Manager. But, you know, I do this for science, for research purposes. Yeah, DT gave up on Gentoo because his crappy CPU back then was so bad. With the Threadripper, he could easily do it. I could do it, but it still would be slower than a binary distro. And for what's the point of me compiling from source? It doesn't do anything. It's not going. I won't benefit from waiting on stuff to compile. I'm not the kind of user for Gentoo. You know, somebody that wants to play with the use flags and build every single package to his specifications. I don't want to do that. I want binary packages that already have every flag enabled, kind of like in Arch. That's what I want. Just sitting around waiting on Gentoo compile just to say I run Gentoo. Not the kind of person I am. At some point, I do have to do work on this machine, right? Oh shoot, you've been gnomed. Alright guys, well I better kill the stream. But yes, this is GNOME. Let me see if I can get you back to GNOME here. This is very vanilla GNOME. You guys want to see before I go what actually is on here? Of course, because I already had a bunch of stuff installed. I mean, I've been using 6 other tiling window managers on this machine, so most of this stuff is stuff I already had installed, but stuff I did not install would include things like GNOME books, GNOME boxes, calendar, cheese, GNOME clocks, GNOME contacts. I wouldn't have installed any of this stuff. Nautilus is the file manager. Epiphany, of course, is going to be the web browser. What else did we have in here that's a GNOME? GNOME music. GNOME photos. Let's see what else GNOME related. Transmission. I like transmission though. GNOME videos is Totem. GNOME weather. GNOME web is Epiphany. And that is GNOME. Yeah, GNOME contacts. Yeah. Alright, yeah, set the primary display in GNOME settings. Ah, that's how we do it. So where is GNOME settings? That's the tweaks. I wanted to go to settings. But that makes sense. I do have AR&R installed as well too. I mean, I could do some of that. Let's see. Bluetooth, background, notifications, applications, sound, power, network. Not seeing anything with display here. Set primary display in GNOME settings. There's nothing. There's not even a display category here though. So I'm not sure on that. You sure it's not under the tweaks? No, if I do a search for display, would something come up? Yeah, displays. Okay, there we go. Would fix the problem, but it would also, it's going to have my monitors out of order. Like it'll move that monitor with the panel over, but then I'm going to run into some other issues. So the other issues I would have is now that third monitor is actually the middle monitor, but when I'm moving windows, you know, they're not moving in the right order, you know, if that makes sense. I can't just move them out of order like that just to get the panel on the right desktop. I don't know. I'll play with that after the show's over though. I think you're on the right track there though. Need to play with those settings. Alright guys, well I'm going to go ahead and jump off. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. And before I go, let's thank these people. The show's made possible by Ansem, Chris, Second Chris, Dylan, George, Jack, Mitchell, Natek, Philip, Rob, Robert, Sam, Tony, Willie, the producers of the show, my highest tiered patrons. I want to thank those guys. They help make this show possible. Also brought to you by all those fine ladies and gentlemen, those names you see on the screen that help make this show possible. I want to thank each and every one of those guys as well. And of course, you guys hanging out in the YouTube chat. Also want to thank those of you that were hanging out in the IRC chat. I don't have it up since I killed my window manager early, but I want to thank all you guys for hanging out with me. The nearly 121 of you that are still hanging out after an hour and a half. Thanks, guys. Peace.